Welcome back. I had a couple of requests for the hairy lion on printables. This design is by R3D. I want to print this on the Prusa XL, so I chose the last print, which is the hairy lion big. Before I do the print at 100%, I want to do a test print at 50%. With my standard 0.32 speed profile, I'm going to do 5% infill with lightning, and this 50% will take right at 8 hours to print. These are the default speed settings, and let's get this printing. I chose to use Overture PLA, which is what I typically use. I am using a Silk Royal Gold. Okay, let's see how this print turned out. Looks like one string is already loose. This pops off the bed very quickly. So this design has a wall that you will cut away and it'll reveal all of those hairs. So there's not much to see there. Right here it looks like the back wall kind of sagged a little bit. It looks pretty good from underneath. There are a few hairs that are loose. And on top it looks like right at the crown of his head there are a few loose hairs. The little bit of the body that I can see looks really good, very smooth, no seams. So let's start cutting this away so we can see what we have. I tried a couple of options with scissors and they just seem like they are a little too rough. So I end up switching to metal sewing scissors that are a little bit curved. I think that it's for ripping seams out. And because they're metal, they just seem sharp and they help me kind of just focus in on a few hairs at a time and not go too crazy. Then once I have sections, I can peel away that outer layer, and I try to do this carefully and not lose too many extra hairs in the process. I can't really reach very far with these scissors, so cutting away each section takes about 10 minutes to get it completely removed and freed and able to see everything. The back area where the wall failed, there are some hairs that attach to the body of the lion. They do not remove very easily. I go ahead and pull what I can, and then I'm going to have to go back in with some scissors and cut them as tight as possible. So this is what he looks like now that he's got the wall removed. I did lose a few hairs, especially around his face, and there are a few loose ones on the top as well. This is a very messy project. I end up with these hairs all over the table, all over the floor, even though I was trying to be pretty careful and have it all contained. So I would recommend it be an area that you can easily vacuum up after you're done. Next is shaping the hairs in the mane. So I use a hair dryer for this. I put it on a low setting and I just kind of slowly start. You can see it on the top of the head. It just, as soon as it gets warm enough, the hairs just cave and curl back. That area is probably the thinnest, so that moves pretty quick, but it seems like all the other areas, if I turn the hairdryer on too hot, then they'll actually curl. So what I have to do is just turn it on a low setting, and as it heats up, just kind of start pushing it back into place. Styling his hair with the hairdryer takes about another 10 minutes to get it to where I like it. I'm happy with this print, so let's go ahead and scale it up. Back in Prusa Slicer, I take it from 50% to 100%, and it looks like it's not going to fit on the build plate at first. Clicking a line does not fix this issue, but I think if I rotate it just a little bit that it will fit. So I decide to rotate it on the Z a -10 degrees. Then I simply have to click the align button again and it recenters it. This was not the case on the previous 2.5 Prusa Slicer. When I upgraded just recently to the 2.6.0 Beta 3, the align button is working correctly. This takes forever to finally slice. So with these dimensions, it's going to take about 30 hours for this print. And I'm glad that I ordered a new roll because this is going to be 830 grams. Also, I've noticed on this new beta that I get a warning on every single print about stability issues, so I choose to ignore that. The new roll of filament is loaded, and let's get this printing. You can see it starts first with the lion, and then it starts to do the wall around it. I didn't really notice it on the smaller print, but it's kind of cool to see on this larger print how much that wall really takes up a lot of the build space. I come back in to check it and notice that the lion looks almost hollow on the inside. This scares me a little bit. I mean, it does look like all of the walls are smooth and working, and I have all of the same settings from the previous one on the 50% that worked. But this kind of surprises me a little bit that it's so hollow. So I look back in the slicer on what I did. I knew that I did a 5% infill, but I'm used to grid, so I'm used to seeing the infill all the way through a little bit. As I start to kind of pull down the layers, I see that yes, it is printing correctly as I asked it to. It really just has, practically nothing on the inside for the majority of it up through where the mane starts. It just looks completely hollow. I figure I've got this far, so I might as well let it keep going, even though I'm a little nervous about how the head's going to turn out. But as things start to fill in, I really have not used this lightning infill. It looks like it just starts to come in where it's needed. The only place that it really needs infill is going to be right below the head, right on the head. So that is where these infill sections come in. It looks really cool. I'm sure it saves a ton of filament and time, so I think I'll be using this more in the future. On the very top of the head, it looks like some of these hairs do not connect all the way, which is what it did on the smaller one as well. This is cooled enough that it really just pops off the bed pretty easily, but it is kind of difficult to manage. You can see the wall looks really good on this side. It didn't fail like it did on the smaller, the 50%. Everything looks pretty good. There is a little bit of a split, but in comparison, it looks great. Underneath looks great. You do see a few hairs as well that are loose, but you don't see anything that's touching the body with the wall like the other one was. So I'm really excited to see how this one's going to turn out. I go through the same process with this of trimming away each of the hairs. I do try to do a little bit more on each section, and I am using a little bit bigger scissors. It seems like since the overall circle is larger, I can get a larger pair of scissors in there. So that does help things kind of move along a little bit quicker, and I just take away each section of the wall as I can. This again takes me about 10 minutes, about what the smaller size took. And then I just trim off some of those too curly hairs, and it's time to start blow drying it. It's definitely trickier to deal with this thicker hair, this thicker length. Overall, the hair it seems like it takes more work to get it to lay down, but again, this takes me about 10 minutes. Overall, I'm really happy with how everything turned out. The 50% lion is a little over 6 inches or about 155 millimeters tall. And the full scale lion is about 12¼ inches tall or about 311 millimeters tall. Let me know your thoughts. Would you print this on the XL? Thanks for watching.